Hi, everybody, and welcome to the whole package, a modern certification for coaches and consultants. I'm thrilled to be here with you today and welcome everybody. I see in the chat so many people from all over the world. It's always so exciting. This work transcends cultures and boundaries and ages and stages. So you're going to be thrilled about what I'm going to share with you today. A few basics for the webinar is the chat is open to everyone. Just chat anytime. And Alana and Carson are here to support. They're my sort of my backbench who help keep me on track for what the questions are. And I'll answer questions as we go along. But if they're going to come up later, I'll leave them till the end. And we'll see where we go with this. The polls, we're gonna do a few polls just to keep things interesting. Some are buttons, others you type in the chat, and it's just helpful for me to make it contextual for the group. And just to start us off, we've heard from a few of you, but where are you joining us from? Just pop it in the chat. Always like to know where people are coming from. And it looks like we've got a super global group here today, and that just warms my heart. So welcome everybody from around the globe. And today, what I'm going to cover is, the first thing is you're going to experience the tools. I find that if I can see myself in the tools, I understand how they work, and then I understand how I might be able to translate them to my client. The second is we're going to walk through some scenarios, look at how to work with individuals, leaders, and organizations, and how this work scales from the micro to the macro, and how to certify and support you, how we support you with business boosters. A little bit about me on the other end here, the one who's talking my name is Kathleen Seeley. I'm the CEO and founder of Massively Human Leadership. I've been doing this for about 25 years. I've been using this tool in particular for about the past 10 years. And I work with individuals in personal growth and organizations, and I'll tell you more about that in a little bit, but I want to talk to you about the bench here. We have Carson Grady. He's in the chat. You can just chat him at @Carson if you want to private message him. He's the head of creative solutions, and he's the one who builds everything from soup to nuts with I just show up and he makes it all happen. We also have the latest addition to our team, Alana Simpson, and she's the executive assistant, and she's just learning how to run the show, and thrilled to have her. A little bit about Massively Human is our mission is to co-create sustainable values-driven cultures, and values underpin everything that we do. Values connect us, our beliefs divide us. That's why this work is so powerful to work, whether you're a individual coach, a life coach, an executive coach, working with leaders and working with organizations. We accomplish our mission by creating and sharing the tools and experience necessary to create sustainable values-driven cultures on a global scale. A little bit more about us. We create humane and sustainable solutions. Our tools provide the knowledge, wisdom, and expertise to allow organizations to tap into their greatest asset. That is their people. We do a variety of things, which you're going to learn today. You can see on your screen in front of you, everything from measuring culture, a quick culture diagnostic called Culture ID. We also do branding camps and culture camps, full-scale organizational transformation. I do keynotes, just all kinds of things to spread this work around the world. And just to give you a preview of some of our clients, just to show that this work transcends industries. We work with government, private, educational, public, and we do open workshops. So again, that's us. And I want to show you, just last week, we certified 21 new people into this community. And the community I'm going to be talking about is a culture transformation tools practitioner community. We've certified more than 150 people in the past 3 years. So it's a growing community full of opportunity and connection. A little bit more about us is Massively Human Leadership Consulting. We have a consulting branch, a corporate consulting branch, as well as Be Massively Human. We dabble in personal development. Many of you know me or came to me through my work with Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield is the co-author of the billion-dollar brand Chicken Soup for the Soul and the Success Principles. And I've been working with Jack for the past 10 years. I started out as a student, and now I consult with him and I design, and I'm responsible for his Train the Trainer program. So some of you came into my world from that experience. But now you know about me, I'd like to hear a little bit about you. So Carson's going to pop a poll up on the screen, and I'd like to know, are you a coach, a consultant? Are you new to all this, or is this completely not applicable to you and you're more just curious? So just answer that poll and I'll get a feel for, all right. Okay. Just going to take a minute and see. We got lots of coaches here. Some new to the world and consultants. Awesome. That's great because we've got coaches, consultants, and new to all this. This tool is good for all of those categories. And so stay tuned, and I'm going to show you how that applies to each of you. A little bit more about the industry and how the balance of where most of my work is. The corporate consulting industry is an $11 billion industry, and the coaching, the personal development industry is about a $2 billion industry. And the ratio of the work that I do matches that. I'm not telling you that I do $11 billion in coaching and consulting, but the ratio is accurate for me. Most of my work is actually in the corporate consulting world, and that's the big opportunity. But also I have learned how to transform these tools using in the personal development world. And now I want to give you a little bit of my backstory. Back, oh my gosh, a number of years ago, 15-ish years ago, all I did was coach one-on-one, and I loved it at the time. And at one point, I found I had about 80 people on my coaching list. It was really, really busy, and I didn't have any more hours in the day. And then one of my clients said to me, "Hey, would you share this with my team?" And then I had this epiphany, and it changed the complete direction of how I do business. And I transcended from working one-on-one. I still do some coaching, but to working with groups of people. And I'm a sociologist. My background is in sociology, so I do like group dynamics. And shifting from the one-on-one coaching to the group really leveraged my time more effectively. And this tool I'm introducing you to allows you to do that. So I would like to get a snapshot of you and the work that you do. And another quick poll, just so I can get a feel. Do you currently work with individuals, like as a life coach is what I mean by that? Leaders, perhaps executive coaching or developmental coaching, organizations, all or none yet, just so I can get a feel. Let's see what's cooking out there. Carson will pop that poll up. All right. Just going to hold off and see as things pop up. We have coaches new to this, no, wait, sorry. We have mostly coaches. Okay. All right. It's the same ratio. This is awesome. This is good. All right. Again, now, what do you want to do? It's important to know what you do, but I want to create the dissonance between what you're doing and what you want to do. So as we walk through what I'm sharing with you today, you can then see how this might work for you. So just one last poll here today. And just so I can get the last feel, what do you want to do? Oh, it looks like we're having a problem with the poll. That's all right. Oh, here we go. Awesome. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. So mostly just kind of all the above. Most of you want to work with all the above. All right, good. Now I got a feel for who's here. And again, I really do appreciate your time. Let's jump into it now. All right. So when I transformed in from working with individuals to coaches, there was always something missing. And I came across this tool, and it's the missing piece was my ability to measure and manage the work I was doing, because the work I was doing was really intangible. If you're a coach or a consultant, and even if you're not a coach or a consultant yet, this kind of work, I see it as the roots under the ground. The roots under the ground you don't see, but the health of the roots really determines the bounty on top. But I was never able to really measure those intangible things that I did with my clients, aside from them saying, this has been really good and I learned a lot. So my missing piece was be able to take the intangible and make them tangible. And that happened about 10 years ago when I was introduced to the culture transformation tools from the Barrett Value Center. And the Barrett and the culture transformation tools are, and I've done a lot of research on tools for transformation, and these are the most detailed and comprehensive diagnostics and values assessment instruments commercially available for coaches, consultants, leaders, and HR professionals. And it has become the pillar of my business. It is robust. It is valid. It's been in existence for more than 2 decades. 4 million assessments have been completed, and it is translated into 60 languages. It is so it transcends again around the globe. They're the most detailed and comprehensive tools available. And a little bit about the founders. There's co-founders. Richard Barrett is one of the founders, and I know Richard personally, and how I met him was I was introduced to his tools. I got certified in his tools. And then I met him as a professor when I was getting a second master's degree in values-based leadership. And he was the guest teacher. And we connected so well. He then asked me if I wanted to teach at Royal Roads University in the values-based leadership program. So I taught beside him for a year. And then I continued to teach in the School of Leadership in the master's program for 4 years after that. And then Richard asked me to become a business partner. So that's how I am one of the few people in the world who can certify people to use this tool. The other co-founder is Joan Schaefer. And I've really been getting to know Joan really well over the last number of months. We're connecting a great deal and collaborating on some projects with the Barrett Value Center. So I get to work with the masters on a regular basis. And I love these folks. I love this tool. So I'm excited to share this with you today. So in order for us to really dig into that personal values assessment that I sent you to fill out, it's really great to see yourself in the tool. I want to set the context for our time here today. And there's a few words that I'll be throwing around, and I just want to share what they mean for us in the context of this experience. And the first one is called consciousness. And for our purposes, consciousness is just awareness with a purpose. That's it. That's what we mean by consciousness. Sometimes you may hear me use the word development. They both mean the same thing. And I shift between development and consciousness depending on the client and the context. The next concept I want to share with you and set the tone for are values. This is all about values. And values are the ideals that give significance to our lives, that are reflected through the priorities we choose and that we act on consistently and repeatedly. They're identifiable, measurable, and experienced through our feelings and our imagination. Our values pull us forward. Our beliefs can hold us back. If our beliefs go untested, we can get stuck in a rut. And that is the problem in relationships and organizations, is we get stuck in a belief system that no longer serves us. But let's talk now, what are beliefs? In my opinion, values are beliefs with a punch. Got that backwards there. But you really know you've bumped up against a value when something really triggers you or you feel super inspired and aligned. A value is usually being expressed. Now, we believe a lot of things. Again, we know we've bumped into a value when we have a strong emotional reaction. A little bit deeper into values, just so you get it for our time here today, is values really are a concept, and it's in the context within which the value is being expressed where we can see differences. For example, think about the value of family. The value of family transcends, it can be found all over the world. The value of family is universal, but the context, the belief is situational. The belief around the family and the expression, how I do family and how you do family may be very different, but the value of family is universal. So if we go deep enough, we can connect. If you put a group of clergy in a room from a variety of faiths, and their task is to agree on a set of beliefs, that is quite conceivably impossible. But if you make their task to agree on a set of operating values, that's possible. Our values connect us. Our beliefs can divide us. At any given moment in time, our values are a reflection of our unmet basic needs and the growth needs associated with the stage of psychological development we've reached. So what we value can change over time, and it has to do with what we need, our basic needs, our growth needs, and where we are in our development. Now, the last concept I want to share with you today is that values are positive and potentially limiting. That's important in the Barrett model. Potentially limiting values. Oh, we've got this backwards on the slide. That's funny. Ignore that. The positive values are trust, creativity, passion, and honesty. The potentially limiting values are things like power, blame, greed, status, and being liked. Now, the Barrett model is revolutionary because it's impactful and practical. I love this model. As you heard me say before, I use this with all of my clients, be it in a personal growth transformational seminar or in the corporate context. A little bit of where it came from. It's grounded in Maslow's hierarchy of needs with the concept that we have deficiency needs and that we gain no sense of lasting satisfaction from being able to meet these needs, but we feel a sense of anxiety if they're not met. For example, our physiological needs. We are hungry, we eat, we get hungry again. We need air, we need water. We have safety needs. We need to feel that we're not going to get eaten by the watering hole, so to speak. And we need to have a sense of love and belonging. And these are never fully satisfied. We fulfill them and then we need to fulfill them again. They're ongoing. They're called deficiency needs. And our growth needs, as Maslow has identified, is really where we self-actualize and we find our passion and our purpose. And Richard took this model and he expanded it. And he calls it 7 levels of consciousness model rather than a hierarchy of needs. And the Barrett model is unique because what Richard and Joan did is they identified values present in each stage of development. And this has been validated over the past 2 decades. However, values are mapped to levels. And what it does is identifies values present in every stage of development. The values choices can give an indication of what stage of development an individual is, and it expands to organizations and spoiler alert, also to nations. It is so leverageable and scalable. It helps identify basic needs and growth needs, and it identifies areas that require attention both individually and organizationally. And just to give you a quick high level, I want to go through the levels very quickly, because then I want you to pull your personal values assessment out. And if you haven't done it yet, and if Carson, if you could pop that, it's already popped in the chat. You can complete your personal values assessment that comes directly to you, and you can walk through your results as I give you a high level. And I encourage you to read the entire report and do the little bit of homework they have at the end. It's a powerful piece. It's a powerful tool that I'm going to also show you at the end of this, how we leverage that tool to build our email list. So let's jump into the model. Let's get going. Now, when we look at the 7 levels of consciousness model as it's mapped to values, level 1, 2, and 3 really have to do with surviving, conforming, and differentiating. We have physical needs and we have emotional needs. And level 1 needs are really around survival, like food, money, shelter, and safety. Level 2 is about relationships, caring, connection, and family. And level 3 is about self-esteem. So in level 1 values, we're really focused on just surviving, making and staying safe. Level 2, it's about conforming. If we look at stages of development, who am I and how do I fit in the context within my cultural conditioning. And level 3, self-esteem, we begin to differentiate. And these can be mapped to your ages and stages. It's not 100% accurate, but pretty predictable, I'll tell you. But differentiating has to be with being unique and different within the context of your culture and conditioning. Level 1, 2, and 3 is where we learn about who we are based on outside in forces. And then at some point in our life, we do this thing. Our mental needs kick in and we transform. We begin to individuate. And this is a very grindy stage of our life. This is when we pull away from our conditioning. We individuate. This is not teenage rebellion. It's really when we ask ourselves that existential question: is all of this cultural conditioning? Is all of this cultural conditioning true for me? Sometimes at this stage, we leave a marriage, we change careers. It's just a grindy sort of, it takes a lot of courage to question your conditioning, because then it's a stage of learning. Most people I find that I work with are in level 4 and then into level 5, which I'm going to dip into in a minute, but really questioning, learning, personal growth, attending workshops, saying, who am I and what am I? They begin to set goals. They begin to hold themselves accountable. It's a wonderful yet intense time. And then we move into what we call the spiritual needs, which is level 5, 6, and 7. Where level 4 and 5, it's really about self-actualizing and having internal cohesion, knowing who you are. We begin to live from the inside out. We know our values. So in times of turmoil, we don't necessarily get swept away. We sometimes get thrown off our game, but we're able to ground ourselves more clearly because we know who we are and what we're passionate about and what matters to us. And then once we land ourselves in our internal cohesion, we then look at how can I integrate this by sharing it with others and begin to serve, make a difference, and live a life of service to others. These are all mapped to ages as well. So that's a very quick, high-level overview of this model. Now let's jump into your personal values assessment. And again, this model is revolutionary, impactful, and so darn practical. It is so practical and easy to use. All right, now let's do hands-on with the tool. Pull out your page number 4 of your personal values assessment. It looks a lot like this, and I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough. And then after this webinar, if this interests you, you can just look deeper into your own assessment and see what pops for you. But I'm just going to help you navigate it very quickly. So what this looks like is, this is called a dot plot. We refer to it as the dot plot. And there's a couple of things I want you to notice. This is the dot plot and this is the values list. And if you remember, you're the one who completed the list. So these are the words that you chose out of the ones that we invited you to select from. The couple of things I want you to notice is that it is in alphabetical order. The computer doesn't know what your favorite value is. All right, it just goes in alphabetical order. And then you'll see the number to the right of the word is the level to which that value is located on the model. So again, we're just going to look through this very quickly. And when we look at navigating your PVA, your personal values assessment, look for where your most dots are. In this particular snapshot, we have the most in level 3 and level 5. So that's your energy, is what you're focusing on. So we'd love it if you tell us in the chat where most of your values are located, just so I can get a feel for who's in the room. Carson will pop that poll up and I will keep chatting. All right. So interested, I'm curious to know what level. And now further navigating your PVA. Remember, I talked about your potentially limiting values. Potentially limiting values are potentially limiting. They're not necessarily limiting in and of themselves, but they're things to pay attention to, because if they're overused, or if you're unaware that that exists there, they can take over when the pressure's on. So those white dots are potentially limiting values, and you can see what the word is up here in the listing. It has an L beside it. And what the potentially limiting values map to is, do I have enough? Level 1, do I have enough food, shelter, and safety? Okay, and I'm just going to check in the levels in the chat. Oh my gosh. Oh, we have 4, 6, 7. All right. 5, 3, 5. All right. What's true, I have to say, is this is pretty much what I see often. Level 4 and 5, particularly people coming to learn, that's the stage of work. Those of you in level who find the energy level 4 and 6, those level 4 and 6 is really, level 4 is who am I? Like, I want to take this in, and level 6 is how am I going to take it into the world? Those are great combinations. Everything is right, just so you know. And what we want to look at is these potentially limiting values. If you have any, it's not terminal, don't worry, but there are things we need to pay attention to. If they're in level 2, it's around, am I loved enough? And in level 3 is, am I enough? And it allows us to see ourselves in our own evolution, the parts that might be sticky, and are into our own possibility. So if you have any empty levels in 1, 2, or 3, we talked about potentially limiting values. Those could be hot spots if we aren't aware of them. And if you have an empty level 1, 2, or 3, what that might mean, it could be age-related and stage-related. Like, for example, I'm turning 57 this year. I was at a meeting yesterday and people were shocked that I was turning 57. I'm pretty excited. I've made it this far. But I'm 57 years old, so a lot of my energy is really on the top because of my stage. But what I also want to know is if there's something empty in level 1, 2, and 3, we have a way to probe to say, is it handled or is it a blind spot? It's handled if things around that level are going okay. It's a blind spot if it shows up. For example, if I have nothing in level 1, no dots in level 1, for example, and I think it's handled, but I can't pay my mortgage, that's called a blind spot. And I'm going to show you some profiles in a little bit that will help you see that more clearly. Now, if you have empty levels in 5, 6, or 7, it's possibly your next step. But note, there are no potentially limiting values in level 5, 6, and 7. Level 1, 2, and 3 is really about personal mastery. And level 5, 6, and 7 is about the common good. And this, as we go deeper into the tool, we find how we connect our ego, level 1, 2, and 3, to our soul, level 5, 6, and 7, to what we call fully integrated. Now, level 7 is not better than level 1. Okay. All right. Now, let's look at some themes. And I find this super helpful. These are some common themes that I've come across. And just so you know that I'm not just winging it, we have done thousands of personal values assessments. Literally thousands of people have completed our personal values assessment that we get to brand in partnership with the Barrett Value Center. We're going to show you how to leverage this piece to build your list as well if you become certified in this tool. But some common themes that show up are these ones, and I see these consistently. Now, let's take a quick look. I don't expect you to, this isn't a test, I don't expect you to remember this, but it's going to give you more context on how, when I see a survey, how I can get a sense of what might be happening. So take a look. Most of the energy is in level 1, 2, and 3. And what that could mean is that this person is still building up. They're building into their life. They're building their foundation. Level 1, level 2 is relationships. Level 3 is self-esteem. A little bit of 4 is like, who am I? And 5 is really on that journey to discover what am I most passionate about. But something to pay attention to are these 3 white dots. And remember, those are potentially limiting values. And we have control, caution, and being liked. So even virtually by looking at the choices someone picks, we can see why sometimes we may have inner turmoil. We may feel internally conflicted. Well, this shows why. And this allows us to see ourselves why sometimes we get in our own way. For example, this person chose ambition and being liked, ambition and caution. You can make up a story about how those values might compete with each other. But if this person is aware that that's going on inside of them, they're able to decide when it's appropriate to want to be more liked, when it's appropriate to push to have caution, and when it's important to take a chance. They have entrepreneurial, control, and caution. Those could also be contradictory if we don't know that they're there. This is a classic millennial profile. And this makes sense because when someone is in this stage of their development, they're building their foundation. They're finding out who they are. And when there's more energy pushed up into level 4 transformation, when they begin to ask themselves that existential question and individuate and say, what am I all about? This energy becomes more focused and shifts from being belief driven to values driven. So that's a classic millennial profile. The next theme that I often see is a lot of energy in level 3. A lot of energy in level 3. Level 3 is about self-esteem, being the best. If you look at the values here, achievement, ambition, being the best, competence and excellence, there's a whole lot of energy in level 3. This is a classic profile of, and this is a real client actually. I call him Sales Guy. He was in a class of mine, and real successful salesperson, but in the whole experience that I was teaching this group, he never did a single exercise with anyone. So remember, I talked about, and people were kind of avoiding him, and he was a little bit obnoxious, I'm not going to lie, but people were avoiding him. And so if you remember when I talked about blind spots, I asked him, I said, talk to me about your relationships because it's empty here. And he just cried. He said, I don't have any. All I'm doing is working. And I said, well, what's your vision or your dream for yourself? And he says, well, I want to be a vice president of sales. So a vice president of sales, that really lives up in level 6 to be able to lead others. Level 6 is collaborative practices, bringing people together. The only way to do that is to build your level 2 because it's developmental. So we were able to shift his attention into shifting away from this over focus on level 3 and build relationships. So as he grows and gets older, he was also in his early 30s, he can then become fully integrated and lead others because we've dealt with this blind spot. So even these simple personal values assessment tells us a lot. Here's another one. I'm going to give you a couple more examples, and then I'm going to shift into organizations. But here's another theme I often see, a lot of level 2 energy. Level 2 is really around being liked, caring, family, friendship, respect. So that's a lot of level 2 energy. And so the focus here is around relationships. This exact profile shows up in 2 different ways. This one in particular was an empty nester. So this is a person, this was actually a woman whose kids stayed at home with their kids, a lot of level 2 energy is that staying home. And then they flew the coop, they left the nest, went to college, and she's left with a lot of level 2 energy. So it's a beautiful time to coach someone, because rather than what often happens if people aren't aware of that hole or that gap, life is a vacuum. So they often, I find that women in their mid 40s who've stayed at home parenting or chosen a job that wasn't necessarily fulfilling but contributed to the family, and now it's time for them to find who they are. If they don't mindfully move into their own possibility, they overcommit and get on every volunteer committee, and then they find themselves resentful because the things that they're doing aren't from their deepest inner passion. So this is a wonderful time to coach someone who's shifting from one thing to another, focused on family to another. If this was someone in their 30s with kids at home, this is a normal profile. That's where the focus is. So we can often see where people are. And this is what happens. This next one is what happens when we have someone who shifts from not taking any conscious time to find who they are and overcommit to doing for others. It's unbalanced. This isn't sustainable. This is someone who does a lot of volunteer work, and their potentially limiting value of being liked is getting in the way. Because if you can't say no, your yes means nothing. And that's what this looks like in an unbalanced way. But this can also show up with someone in their 50s who actually has these parts of their lives handled, and they're really looking into legacy and long-term focus. So it doesn't necessarily mean there's a fire or something's wrong when there's empty empty levels, you want to poke around and figure that out. Now, the last thing I want to show you on the personal values assessment is I see I have a question popping up here from Leslie. I'm going to answer that in a second. I'll finish this and then I'll answer your question. This is really powerful work if you work with people in relationships and organizations. Of course, you're bringing people together in relationships. So here you can see two people, an employee and a business owner, and look at the difference in the focus. And this actually has a lot to do with ages and stages, because this is actually me and Carson. So this is mine. I own the business, and as I mentioned, I'm approaching 57. I have a lot more energy up here. I'm in a different stage of my life. My lower levels are pretty much handled. But what I want you to know is when we go through a change in our life, we have to regroup and rebuild. And I'm just sidebarring, like when I got divorced 10 years ago, I was living up here, and then I had to go down and rebuild my financial stability, my relationships, and my self-esteem. So we move up and down. This just happens to be my focus today. And then you'll look at Carson's focus. He works, I say he works for me, but we work together. His energy is here. So we're in very different stages in our lives and our careers. So I, as a leader, need to be aware of that. And knowing this, we can be super conscious of what each of us needs. And I, as a leader, need to meet him where he is. And this helps me see what's going on for him. So I'm going to answer Leslie's question. And while I'm answering Leslie's question, we are going to take a poll. And what we would like to know is, was this helpful? And Leslie said, what does this mean, please, Kathleen? You have selected one value, which might be classed as potentially limiting or fear-based. Reward, acquiring material external gain motivates you to work hard. Well, this is not inherently wrong. It can be worth considering the internal benefits that you might receive from being, okay. So potentially limiting, what that means is if it's overused, if you're just doing something for the reward, you might lose track of the why, sort of the deeper meaning. And the word potentially limiting is important because control is a potentially limiting value, and I need to take control. But if my need to take control overpowers what the situation requires, then I need to check my potentially limiting value of control. We got 100% that people said the PVA was interesting. So Leslie, let me know if that's helpful. Potentially limiting values, the key word here is potentially. Keep it in mind. All right. So with this certification I'm going to talk about at the end of this webinar, we use this personal values assessment as a lead magnet. It's a great start point for people to come into your funnel. You're able to brand this tool once you're certified and bring people to your list. Just to give you a quick idea, I really appreciate your question, by the way, Leslie, and I really appreciate you all responding to the polls. That's super helpful for us. But the PVA, just to give you a snapshot of how the PVA works for us, it is the foundation to bring people to our list. We have, 6,253 people click on it. And out of the 6,200 people, this is just a 5-month snapshot with this particular lead magnet that we use. We have a 74% conversion rate. That is super high because as 100% of you said that PVA was useful, that's what people say who click on it, read the report, and give us feedback. That's why that's such a powerful lead magnet that you get to use once you're certified. Now I want to move into how I take this work from the individual, public, personal growth arena and into the corporate arena. I want you to see by the end of this how it's translatable. And so I'm going to share with you 3 scenarios really quickly on how we take this tool into personal growth realm, how I coach leaders in their own development, effective communication, and organizations. So let's first start with individuals. And as I said to you, most of my business is in corporate, but I also have about 25% of my revenue and my time goes into personal growth opportunities because this actually, I love it when people come to my trainings because they want to be there. When I work in the corporate world, sometimes they're told to be there. So it takes a little bit of a different approach to get them feel like, oh, yay, I'm glad I'm here. But I've created a number of online courses and some live workshops using this tool. We have an 8-week course, an online course. We have many, but one in particular was called Living Full Spectrum. And it was an 8-week course that walked people through their own potential and their own development using the individual values assessment that I'm going to talk about in a minute as the foundation. Now we're starting to get into the more complex, robust tools. Outside of that free personal values assessment, these are the tools that once you're certified, you can use. And I've done online courses. I also last year was the thrill of my life when Jack Canfield and I co-facilitated a 3-day intensive workshop in Lake Las Vegas. And Jack took the first day and I did the following 2 days, and we integrated our work together, and it was powerful. As I said to you, I've been working with Jack for about 10 years. We're really good friends. He's a mentor, a friend, and a business partner. So we translated this with individuals. And also, Alana said, I think of the PVA as a taster at Costco. I love that. That's good thinking. It's the 100-calorie snack pack. You know, you want the whole box. But the online courses, I mean, you can just see we always get very positive reviews. And it's because this tool allows people to see themselves in their own evolution and the parts of themselves they've not yet occupied. The individual values assessment is a roadmap. It's more robust than the personal values assessment because it takes a deeper dive into what are your top 10 personal values, what are the top 10 values you're currently experiencing, and what are the top 10 values that you want to experience. So you can see a shift. The tool is more robust than this, but I just want to give you a clean, clear picture. For example, this person, here's their personal values, a lot of level 3 self-esteem stuff, popping into level 5, finding internal cohesion. But what they're experiencing currently in their life is conflict avoidance, long hours, perfection. Perfection's a killer, as we all know, and short-term focus. So then the third question we ask them is, what do you want? And you can see that this person really wants to shift from a lot of energy in the lower levels into the higher, but we can't move from perfection to acceptance if we don't understand what the blocks are. And this tool beautifully identifies people's blocks. And so the coaching map is simple and clear. Now, here's another one. Just by looking at the dots, we teach you how to read them. It becomes very intuitive. Our graduating class who finished last week all walked away with a firm grasp on how to read these tools and what the plots mean. But I just wanted to give you a feel. This is a person who's experiencing a lot in their personal values, some potentially limiting values, a lot of internal conflict, and that shows up in their day-to-day. And look at these potentially limiting values. In particular, let's look at conflict avoidance. And what do I want? What do I want? We have to create that dissonance between where we are and what we want to move us forward. I want calm. I want conflict resolution. The answer is always in the desired values. And then we have a roadmap for people to work to. Sally said that picking 10 values was not easy. Yeah, Sally, it's not easy. And you know what I will help you do when you're coaching people? I will invite you to take them from 10 to 3. And I'll tell you why. When you choose your top 3 core values, you are not doing away with the other ones, but you're creating a way to make decisions. If you identify what's most important to you, it doesn't make the others go away, but when you're faced with an opportunity to make a decision, a choice, or you're triggered, you can remember those core values and decide accordingly. 10 is tough, but we teach you how to map it, how to put it into 3. I'm not kidding you, and it's virtually painless. And people understand that I need to get more focus. When it's hard to pick 10, where else does that show up in your life? What else is kind of somewhat chaotic and confusing and hard to choose? We invite you to look deep into what motivates you, to identify those core motivations, to then create a roadmap to your own possibility. And Lorna Granger is just one of our grads who really focuses this work on personal coaching, personal growth clients, one of our big success stories. So Carson's monitoring the Q&A. Just post the Q&A and he'll let me know if there's something I need to answer now, or we'll flag it for later. But just keep posting your questions. We really appreciate it. It helps us. But now I'm going to take this into the next step, working with leaders, the 360 assessments and feedback and growth. Working with leaders and leadership teams is powerful. If you change the heart of a leader, you can change the world. And any organizational change begins with the transformation of the leaders, 100% of the time. So this is what a map looks like for a leader. It's a different kind of assessment. What I don't want to do is overwhelm you. But what I do want to do is show you how diverse and deep and rich these tools are. But a leadership values assessment, just to give you a quick look, is I identify my top 10 personal values. I then send it out to 30 to 50 other people. Brian loves it. I'm so glad. I send it to 30 to 50 other people. I get their feedback. And these are the top 10 values they observe in me. And these are the top 10 values they want from me. So it gives us a super clear map of, do you see me as I see me? And what do you want from me? And I can coach from a 360 assessment. I can coach someone for a solid 6 months. And this is just a very light, that's just the first report. There are multiple reports that come from a Leadership 360. And you walk through these reports with your clients. You practice it in the training. We teach you how to do it. And you can move them from where they are to where they want to be in a way that they understand how they impact others. So again, with leaders, leadership development, Leadership 360, I do this with leadership teams. It is so powerful. And if you have any questions, just keep posting them. I just want to keep reminding you that we're there. We're here for you. We're going to answer your questions, and I'll stay on as long as you like after. As long as you want after, because this is important to you. Carson says the 360s are a big part of our business. Yeah, I've done literally hundreds of these 360s. The individual values assessment, I've now broken over 1,000, doing 1,000 of those. So I have a lot of experience, multiple thousands of the free ones, thousands of the IVAs, and hundreds of the leadership ones. And now I want to show you how this translates into organizations. This is why it's scalable. Those of you who want to coach individuals one-on-one, I did that too. But then I realized I can scale my time more effectively if I can work with individuals, translating then into organizations. And this tool can help you work individually, and then it can help you expand it. So teams and organizations, you can work with any size organization. This tool, a colleague of mine, a graduate of our program actually, just completed a cultural values assessment of an organization with 78,000 people. That is huge and that is big, but it also is good for teams of 5. You know, it's so scalable. And the business case for this work is, when we look at culture's up, by the way, culture is up. When we look at the state of culture, anyone who works in corporate understands or is familiar with the book Good to Great. And Good to Great used to be the benchmark of a good company. And now there's more research coming out. A book called Firms of Endearment have identified companies that over the long term, over 10 years, outperform the Good to Greats 10 to 1. That is huge. What are they doing different that they're outperforming the Good to Great? A couple of things to note. The Good to Great, and both the Good to Great and Firms of Endearment outperform the S&P 500. That makes sense, because what you focus on, what you manage, you measure. What you measure, you manage. And you focus on certain metrics, you're going to increase your revenue. But what the Firms of Endearment did is their focus was on exemplary citizenship and servant leadership. They really focused on their culture. It took longer, but over a period of 10 years, they outperformed the Good to Greats 10 to 1. These are examples of some of those Firms of Endearment. They're diverse. Harley Davidson, Caterpillar are also included in these examples. So FedEx, Adobe, all these companies should be familiar to you. And these outperform the Good to Greats 10 to 1 over a longer period of time. So culture is up, culture is it. The culture of an organization or any group of individuals is a reflection of the values, the beliefs, and the behaviors of the leaders of the group, or the legacy of past leaders 100% of the time. What is culture? Culture is the way things are done around here. And as I said before, culture is up. And there are some challenges that business is facing today. And the principles, there's a few principles that we guide this work by. And principle one is cultural capital is a frontier of the new competitive advantage. Hands down, you manage your culture, you outperform. It's not so much what you do, it's how you do what you do. The second one is for evolving organizations, culture transformation begins with personal transformation. Organizations don't transform, people do, and it needs to start with the leadership. And principle three is measurement matters. Ugh, sorry, I'm tripping over my tongue. If you can measure it, you can manage it. And that's the power of the CTT tools. You can measure and manage. And this is what it looks like in a large organization. This is 259 employees in the construction industry in Canada. This is a client of mine. And what the group surveys do is they identify the top 10 values of the people that do the survey. So it's not the individual values assessment is one person's perspective. The cultural values assessment puts it all together and themes pop. For example, if you look at the context of the personal values, 126 people out of 259 chose family as a personal value. So the top 10 values pop. And then the top 10 values of what you have to do to get along here, the current culture. This is what we experience. And this is what we dream about. And we teach you how to read these maps. And then you'll see there's an interesting red dot. I think it's interesting, red dot on this particular plot. It's called entropy, and it says 28%. Entropy is the way we measure dysfunction. And we're able to cut the data and drill down the data to see where are the hot spots, what's the measurement, and we have different measurement bands. So depending on the percentage of entropy, and we help you understand this and read it and translate it to your client, depending on the level of entropy, we can zero in on where the work needs to be done. So I say we drill down into the data. An example of that is from this same client right here of 259 employees. Let's go a little bit deeper. And when we go a little bit deeper, we see this is a department segment and there's 23% entropy. In the large company overall, there's 28, but in this department, there's 23, and it's a little bit different. So we want to know, what are they doing here that reduces the entropy? There's still something to work on. But then we can contrast this to another department out of that same set of data, and we have 43% entropy. So we've got a real hot spot here. And this tool allows you to identify the hot spots. And here's the thing. This isn't the only report. Again, just like with the 360, there's about a dozen different ways we cut the data so your client can get a full feel, and you can interpret it for your client to get a full idea of what their data is saying. And the beautiful thing is it's self-identifying. You don't tell them, they tell themselves through the data by selecting. So you're not coming in and making subjective analysis. You're showing them what they know to be true about them. And that's what Ginger Duncan, who you can see her being pointed to in the most recent grad, is. She was thrilled because no longer is she trying to convince her client of what's up. This tool allows her to measure it. So now I'm going to talk for just a few minutes. Oh yeah, there's some stuff about schools. Dara, we're seeing this in schools across the US. Yes, I'm going to hold that question, Carson. I want to address that in the Q&A. And I'm just going to talk about our most recent group of grads from literally all over the world who came to beautiful British Columbia and spent a week learning. But the week learning didn't just start with the live session. We have a beautiful community. This certification is turnkey. It's 100% comprehensible. It's ready to go. And we have a ton of community support. Our massively human community allows you, now that we've broke 150 grads, there are people from every walk, every different consulting practice, and you get to connect with them. We also support our community after you complete the program. We do monthly calls. We have celebrity guest speakers. Richard's on the call. Tor's been on the call. Joan is coming on a call. We have a number of people who show up as experts in the field of culture transformation. So you can ask them questions live and in real time. We have tons of resources. We also provide you with business boosters and an evolving set of resources. It's full scale. It is turnkey. We support you pre and post training. So this particular certification is 52 hours of training. Now, don't let that scare you. We have 4 live days, but we prepare you with pre-calls. You practice with the tools before you walk in the room. So when you come in the room, you come in hot and you're ready to learn and grow and integrate deeper into the tools. A lot of practical experience. We give you so much support. We walk through multiple real surveys that I've done. And you also, as part of your certification, when you're certified, you pay for the surveys that you use, but as part of your certification, you get $1,800 worth of surveys to use with a client right away. So you can actually leverage and make your money back, your investment back right away if you find a client to work with. There are no annual dues with the culture transformation tools, the Barrett Value Center. Once you're in, you're in. You pay only for the surveys that you use. We have our monthly calls. We have a very active private Facebook group. We also give you, what we do that's unique to the world is we give you a half day and full day facilitation guides, step-by-step how to run workshops. We give you our slide decks. We give you our client pitch deck. We give you a sample proposal template. Again, super active Facebook group and monthly community calls. Our community is super interactive, and some members of our community are also collaborating with each other, working on projects. I sometimes feel left out because I love collaborating, but it's beautiful to see people working together. And now, how do you join us, and what does it cost? That's what people usually ask. All right, our next approach, our next CTT certification is in Kelowna, British Columbia. The live event is June 8th to the 11th. 2020. Kelowna, British Columbia has an international airport. No sweat. If you can get to Seattle, Vancouver, or Calgary, you can get here. It's easy. And we just had 21 people literally from around the world, including Ghana, show up. So they got here. And we are pre-training online. Training starts in April. The tuition is $64.95. I don't know why it says $64.96. $24.95 deposit today with 3 monthly payments of $1,333. So we allow you to build, to make payments till you show up in the room. A few of the extras that we add, we also have a full pay alternative. If you can talk to Carson about that, he makes all that happen. We also give you some business boosters. This is key to what we do that's different and unique. We give you, we've created a Facebook Ads 101 course, Google Ads 101 course. We give you an email nurture sequence funnel, teach you how to do it. We do tutorials for how to build a landing page specific to the CTT work. And we also show you the power of the personal values assessment. Again, I talked about how we use this as our lead magnet. We've literally had multiple thousands of people do this survey and come into our funnel. And that's how we invite them to an online program, a live program, or something like this. Again, the conversion rate is super high. 60 to 100 people click on it, but 74% of those people give us their email address. This is a magnet. It's a lead magnet. And this tool, it's time for you to make the intangible tangible. And again, this is what changed everything for my business. When I could measure those, my clients would say this was amazing. And I was getting lots of word of mouth referrals, but word of mouth referrals don't always pay the bills. And once I began to be able to measure and manage and show people where they are in their own evolution and what their possibilities were individually and organizationally, that took it to a whole new level. Groups are small. The training rooms are small because we want you to learn. I have a lot of staff supporting you in the room, in your on the online onboarding with me and our Facebook communities. So what you're going to get from us is you're going to get a personal email from one of the members of our team, and they can answer any questions you have about the certification, the tools, the tuition, a payment schedule, our business, our pets. I have 2 cats. Kirsten has a dog. Alana is would take any animal into her house. We have a lot of animals. And Colleen has a little Yorkie. So one of those folks will be reaching out to you if you'd like to learn more, and stay tuned for that. And I want to say thank you for sticking around. I'm not going anywhere, but if you have to go, I get it. However, again, thank you on behalf of myself, Carson, and Alana. And a couple more things, one more poll. What we would like to know is, was this webinar worth your time? And once you answer that question, I will stick around and answer anything that shows up in the chat until you feel satisfied. We are here to answer your questions. So what I'd like to know is yes, no, or meh. Was this webinar helpful? Because we always work to improve it. All right, so I'm going to go to the chat and see what's up. All right, so Dara, we are seeing this in schools across the US, and without leadership leading from a conscious leadership servant heart, there's a lot of harm being done. Grateful for you sharing this information in an easily accessible way to translate across a discipline. Excited to learn more and talk. Great, Dara. I'm excited that you're looking at this, because we do have some grads who specifically work in schools, and the Barrett Value Center offers special rates for schools and third world countries to use the tools. All right, we had 82% say it was great and 18% say it was good. I'm so happy. Thank you for staying, and you don't have to go anywhere. But I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. Those of you who have to go, it's been a delight and a pleasure. All right, now let's go to Q&A. Jeff asked, can you sell those included tools? Oh, okay. So this is a good question. So I said to you, your certification includes about $1,800 worth of tools. You can sell them. And what we encourage you to do is, in the pre-calls, we begin to help you understand how to attract a client that you could use the tools with right away. And for example, we had Michael Klein just came back, and he was an assistant in the room because he's amazing. He pre-sold his surveys, and even before he finished certifying, he had a gig set up, and he reclaimed his revenue just from one gig. Kemi asked, is the certification online? Okay, this is blended. We do a lot of it online, and when you come in live, we integrate more fully. We've had people who we spend a lot of time with online. They come in the live and they say it's so much more effective. And I think learning is a contact sport, particularly values-based learning. And we show you physically how to walk people through the tools in an embodied way in the live training that just doesn't land online. So we've turned to a blended model, and we found it the most effective way to do it. Another question is, do we get to experience with the tools? Okay, so this is what we implemented in the last group, and it worked out so good. You do your own individual values assessment. You learn how to unpack it. You see yourself in it. You experience it with someone else. And we also give you another one to do with a volunteer. We provide you with, we put you in a small group with a mentor, and you get to do an individual values assessment with a volunteer. You can't charge for it because you're learning. And then we get to help you unpack it before you even walk in the room. So you come into the live training with actual physical experience, having done the surveys. So your questions come from a deeper place. It was one of the most effective trainings we have. We've done this 14 times. You could be part of the 15th graduating class in June if you join us. Okay. How much are the assessments? So the assessments, the individual values assessment is $40 US. And I use that individual values assessment. I can coach off that quite heavily. The tools are reasonably priced. I use the individual values assessment when I'm selling to a corporate client. The Leadership 360 that you saw briefly is $240, and I charge a client $6,500, and I'll coach from the results of their survey for about 6 sessions. I show you how I do that. You practice that, and I show you how I do that. The cultural values assessments, they're anywhere organizationally, anywhere from 3 to 40,000, depending on the complexity. Like, I mean, it's scalable anywhere from a small group of 20 or under to multiple thousand people. So it's super contextual. But we spend an afternoon, and you just Q&A me until you're done in the live training. We talk about we call it pitches, plots, and pricing. And we talk about how I price. I'm pretty transparent about what I price, how I do it. And you have to develop your own around it. But I do find this tool to be very reasonably priced and a lot of value out of it. Like I said, I can coach a leader for multiple months out of a 360. So when we talk about a survey being in the higher range, those are 3 and 5 year projects, which are that's a different kind of consultant who gets those. So don't let those numbers scare you. My jobs run anywhere from like $6,000 for a 1 day into 200,000+ for a multi-month or year contract. It all depends on what your market is. But honestly, we have multiple grads who had nothing, just wanted to get into this business, and have built a healthy coaching practice out of using these tools as the foundation. So it really honestly doesn't matter where you are in your practice. Like Ginger Duncan, one of our grads, she's a very successful executive coach and consultant. And she just said, I can take this and use it tomorrow, because she's already in the corporate game. And we have other people who are just starting out. Honestly, the mix in the room is, there's a range of people in the room. There's a mix, and it doesn't matter where you are. It's effective no matter where you're starting from. I have found that the people in the room, the community, the connection that's made with the community, and what we've been working on in the last couple of training is building opportunities for you to continue on in your learning and your mastery by becoming a mentor to our grads or the new students as a graduate, to keep your hands in the work. We always add new things and expand and broaden and fine tune what we do, because I not only certify people in this tool, but I'm a practitioner. I use it with my clients. So I bring what I learn on the front line into your world to make it easy. If you want to come back, we do have a couple of more sessions if you want to hear it all again. I don't know. Sometimes I impulsively say different things. I have no idea what's going to happen. But we have another one at 1 o'clock and then 7 o'clock Pacific time. If you know anyone who might be interested, you can share that sign up link, because these tools are powerful. This has changed my consulting career. We have over 150 very, very happy grads, everyone in different stages, for sure, of their consulting practice. Some people are way beyond me, and some people are just starting out. But what we have in common is we understand the power of values and how culture is the defining difference for organizations, and as well as our internal culture. Who we are inside profoundly impacts the way we do our life, and to recognize where we are in our own transformation and what our possibilities are. You coming into this training, you will transform. People have so many personal transformations because you're doing the work as well, and you learn how to do the work. Sally asked me, how do I weave train the trainer and Jack stuff in? Well, that's a great question. Those of you who are from the Jack world, I'm the only one who put these two pieces together. And then Jack said, Kathleen, we need to share this with our grads. And this is how it works. If you're a Jack Canfield certified person, you have a lot of tools and techniques. And what this does is I see it as the trunk of the tree. This holds it all together. It allows you to measure and manage all that work you do with your Train the Trainer certification and all the other things that you know. You can now measure and manage. When I came to this tool, I didn't have Jack's tools. I came to this about the same time I was introduced to Jack's World in 2009-10, and then I began to see how they merged together. And then the reason why Jack promotes this so heavily is because he hired me as a consultant to work with him and his team for a year. So he did my 1 year intensively, massively human team, and he saw how these tools held all of my work together, and then how we integrate his work into these tools. So they all each stand alone, but together it's sort of like a superpower. And again, if you can measure and manage the transformation process with your client, you then have really great testimonials. I hope that makes sense. And the thing is, Jack is actually a client of mine. People are surprised by that. He is one of my clients that I work with. I not only design the Train the Trainer program, I have the honor, many of you I've seen on his Breakthrough to Success and his Train the Trainer stage. I speak at his events, but also I consult. And I've helped them in their own leadership development and their own culture transformation. So he fully endorses it because he's experienced it from many angles. And yeah, does anyone else have any other questions or anything popping up, Carson, that you want to shoot my way? I will go back to the chat. All right. Okay. I'm just looking at the chat. Okay. Jason, I'm just about joining the session. How can I see the things about the training and how can I get it? Is it all online? No, it's not online. It's both. It's online and live. Again, integrating both ways of learning together, to me, are more effective. This work is really embodied work. The live integrates it further, as well as you connect with people physically. And again, so many collaborations have come out of it. Like we had a couple of people, Ginger and Catherine from Ghana, Ginger from Tennessee. They're going to work together just by meeting each other in the room. And Sally, thank you, Sally, the highlight of these events. You're welcome, Tammy. Thanks for joining. And yeah, we have Jason, if you want to pop back on the next sessions, just new questions will emerge. If you've got nothing else to do today, hang out with me. I love doing this. I love talking about it. I love my work. I'm super passionate. So on that note, I will close off. It looks like the questions are answered. Thanks all of you for hanging on. My gosh, we had super high retention. Everyone stayed. And I very much appreciate your time. I know how valuable that is. Have a wonderful day, and maybe we'll see you on the next one, or you will get an email from us and let's chat if this interests you. Get part of that June group and transform the way you do your business. Thank you.